Hi everyone! My name is Joy Clark, and today we are going to be working on breaking down contemporary monologues. Now, contemporary monologues can seem really exciting and really comfortable to a lot of people because you feel like since it's contemporary, it matches you a little bit more because we are people living today. But contemporary actually means a pretty wide range of time. So contemporary monologues can actually start as far back as the 50s, clear up to today. And so we're going to be diving into how to execute contemporary monologues in the most effective way possible. Your job as an actor with monologues is going to be preparation. Now, I know that it can feel sometimes like maybe you want to be spontaneous, so you don't want to think too much about the character, the play, and whatever, because you want it to be like you in that moment. That is such a lovely idea. And that is something that we are going to live in, but in a little bit of a different way. Because if we do all of our research and we really dig deep into the play and into the world that these characters are in and the given circumstances of the characters, then you'll be able to have all of that in your brain and then let it go and then be spontaneous within that. And it's going to make it all so much more fully fledged and much more effective to the person who's watching. At the end of the day, our job is to make the experience for the other person watching the most effective possible. With this preparation, we're going to be able to create and craft a logical and emotional journey to then be spontaneous within. This is so important, and it's honestly a little bit like psychology. We're going to kind of be doing psychology work because character study is all about thinking about how people function and think from moment to moment in their daily lives. There's an amazing quote by Adam Driver, who's one of my favorite actors right now. He plays Kylo Ren in Star Wars, if you've ever seen that. He's such an incredible actor, and something that he said in an interview once was something along the lines of, your job is not to feel things as an actor. Your job is to make the audience feel things. So the work that we're going to be doing today is going to be all about how to make the audience feel. Now, first things first, you have to find a monologue. Here are some things for you to think about when it comes to finding monologues. I'm going to give you the secret for how to find monologues. Are you ready? Listen closely. Read plays. That's really it. I know that it would be amazing if there was some magical anthology somewhere, or if you could just snap your fingers and be able to find monologues. But at the end of the day, the best way to find monologues is to read plays. The more the better. And they're so much fun to read. They're a blast. It's just like reading a book, except it's a little more interactive. A lot of times you will find anthologies of monologues. Maybe it'll say something along the lines of monologues for children, or monologues for teens, or monologues for young adults. You have to be careful with books like that because a lot of times those monologues have just been written by somebody as standalone pieces. That's not to say that they haven't done wonderful work in writing those monologues, but they don't have a greater world to them. When a monologue is from a play, you have all of this that you get to go off of, all of this character analysis. You get to see how this character functions with other people in the play. It makes for a much more fully fledged character and more, as we say, actor candy for you to nibble on and really flush out your performance. Now, this doesn't mean that there aren't other ways for you to find monologues. YouTube is a great resource for being able to see what kind of monologues people are doing. You can totally look up on YouTube people who are around your age doing monologues, and if they have if they cited the source or the play that it's from, then you can go and order that play or read it on your Kindle, and you can see for yourself, and you still have that source material for that monologue. Here is another word of the wise for choosing monologues. You're not going to want to choose monologues that are from musicals. This includes if you are auditioning for a musical. And the reason for that is a little bit complicated. In musicals, a lot of times the moments that would make the best monologues are made into songs. So that means that anything that is a monologue maybe is leading up to a song, or is maybe not at the same height or emotional height as the song is. So they're not always going to serve you the best as an actor. Whereas monologues that are from plays are going to be very heightened, they're going to have all of the stakes laid out for you, and they're going to be much more effective in an audition room. So now we know how to find monologues, so now it's time to pick monologues for you. When it comes to picking monologues, the first rule of thumb in general is to try and find something that's in the same age range as yourself. This isn't a cut and dried rule. It can be a deliberate choice to do something that's outside of your technical age range, particularly when you're younger. There's only so much material for younger people. But make sure that you're making a deliberate choice and that it's not something that you can't necessarily identify with. And that leads me into my next point, which is try and find monologues where the character feels like you. That doesn't mean that you can't do monologues where the person is completely different than you are, but make sure that it resonates with you, that there's something about it that you're like, ooh, yeah, this is me. Even if it's like a villain, you're not a villainous person, but that villain might feel super great on you, yeah? So you wanna make sure that you're finding stuff that you're gonna feel awesome on and that you're going to be able to have a ton of fun with. This is a hard one, but you're gonna wanna try to stay away from story monologues. That can be really difficult. Now, a story monologue is just what it sounds like. It's when your character is telling a story to the other person, or maybe they're talking about a person that they know, or they're relaying a funny anecdote. These can still be really great monologues, but as far as auditions go and as far as working out your acting muscles, they're not going to be as effective. And that's what we want, right? We're wanting to have the most effect on the audience and to be able to show off your acting as much as possible. Sometimes story monologues can just limit that. Ideally, any monologue that you pick will have a journey to it, meaning it starts in one place and ends in another. We'll say it starts in point A and ends at point B. There is a journey that happens during the course of the monologue. Maybe there's a change that happens to the character. Maybe they make a realization. Now, this won't always necessarily be spelled out in the text, but as you're reading the monologue, you want to be thinking, is there a change happening? Is this ending somewhere that it didn't start? Have I progressed as a character? Is something different than it was at the start? You also want to look out for your character having a clear objective. Objective is one of our favorite acting terms. It's one of the most important terms in all of acting. And what it translates to is what your character wants. What do they want in this moment? If you're able to see in your monologue that there is a clear objective, a clear thing that your character is trying to achieve during the course of the monologue, that's a great monologue. Sometimes that's another one that might not be as obvious, but you'll see as you read the play that maybe underneath the words that are being said, your character is actually trying to achieve something. Objective is very, very important, and we'll talk more about it later. Now that you've picked your monologue, now you get to do some character analysis. The way that we're gonna start with this is, guess what? Reading the play! Woo! I like to read the play a couple of times with a few different thoughts in my mind. So the first time I read the play, I like to read it just like as an audience member. I just like to see what's going on, maybe follow the journey, maybe I don't know what's gonna happen, so I get to be surprised just like the audience would be. And then the next time I read through the play, then I'm thinking of it in terms of my character specifically, the character who is delivering this monologue. And when I do that, I'm going through and I'm taking note, either physically or mentally, of things that my character says about themselves and things that other characters say about my character. This is gonna reveal so much to you about this character and probably about this monologue. You're gonna be able to see some of those little deep things that you wouldn't have known without the source material. This includes looking at the stage directions. Sometimes you'll see a really interesting description of your character, or you'll see a few things in italics that are talking about how your character is behaving. Those can be really insightful as well. Something I'm also looking for when I go through the play in terms of the character is something called a super objective. So we already touched on objective, which is what does your character want? Often, what does your character want in that scene, in that moment? Your super objective is going to be the overarching objective that your character has throughout the course of the play, and maybe throughout the course of their lives. Maybe you're seeing themes and behaviors that show that this character just wants to be loved. Maybe they just want someone to love them. Oh, that is a completely legitimate super objective. Maybe they're a villain and their super objective is to take control of the world. And within that super objective, from scene to scene, they're going to have different individual objectives in order to try and achieve their super objective. Perhaps for this villain, in one scene, they're trying to interrogate one of the good guys. Or maybe in the next scene, they are trying to gain control over the public. And those are individual objectives that are adding up to them taking control of the world. And when you found all of these goodies about your character in terms of the play and what's in the text, then you get to ask yourself, does any of that resonate with me? Maybe your character that you're looking at seems to be showing behaviors that show that they're a little embarrassed or maybe insecure. Maybe they are apologizing a lot in the text. Those are things that they're saying. Maybe other people have lines such as, oh, you should be more confident, something like that. I feel like being insecure is something that all of us can identify with, right? We all have moments in our life where we just feel a little not quite on our game. And so that's something that you can identify with. Maybe there'll be something more personal. Maybe there isn't as much that you can identify with. And then you get to dig a little bit deeper. Now that we know a little bit more about our character, now we're going to talk about given circumstances within the play. Your given circumstances are pretty simple. Who, what, when, where, and why. It's as easy as that. Let's start with who. Some questions to ask about your who. First of all, who is your character? Who are they? Where are they from? What's their past? What was their life like before this moment in the play? What school did they go to? Did they go to school? How old are they? What is their favorite color? What's their favorite food? What's their least favorite food? You get to look at the play and see if there's any clues to any of this. Who your character is. Now we're looking at the given circumstances of your monologue as well. So, who is involved in your monologue? Who is your character speaking to? Is it their best friend? Is it their parent? Is it someone they don't know? Is it the audience? Is it the gods, like in a Greek play where they're cursing the gods? Who is in the scene with you? Even though it's a monologue and it's just you on stage, there is always someone else in the room. Now, once you've identified who your character is talking to, now you have to give them a fully fledged identity as well. Who are they? If they're your best friend, how long have you known them? What kind of things do you like to do together? Have you just met? If you've just met, what made you immediately hit it off with this person? What kind of things do you like to do together? Are you super similar or are you like super different and that's why like opposites attract? These are all things that you get to, first of all, look for in the play, but then later on, decide a little bit for yourself. Now we get to move on to what. What is going on in the scene? What is the subject at hand? We've talked a little bit about this with super objective and objective. So we know that big what, the overarching what, and then we might pin down what our objective is during this scene. What are we fighting for? What do we need? What do we want to achieve by the end of this scene? And a lot of times that is going to directly involve whoever is in the scene with you. Your scene partner, your invisible scene partner. So we've already talked about who you're talking to. Now, you have an objective, but so does your invisible scene partner. and they're probably going to be opposing objectives. Are you trying to convince them that cookies are best with milk and they are trying to convince you that cookies are best with water? Those are opposing objectives. You're trying to convince each other of opposite things. Maybe you are trying to get closer to somebody and the other person is trying to pull away. Those are opposing objectives. That is what is going to make for conflict within the scene, which makes a scene more interesting and is going to make your monologue much more active. So we're not just asking what do we want in the scene, but what do they want in the scene? And how are we negotiating together? Now we get to move on to when. When is pretty straightforward. When is it? A lot of times this can have to do with the time period. Maybe the show was written in the 50s. Or maybe the show was written in the 50s but is set in the 80s. Oh, it's the future for the 50s. There's so many ways that the when can affect your performance. It's going to affect the way that you move. It's going to affect the way that your character speaks. Maybe it's going to affect the way that their text is structured. When can be very important. And beyond that, what time of day is it? This doesn't always have to be important, but maybe you've picked a monologue where it's the middle of the night and somebody just woke them up. That's going to affect your monologue, yeah? It's gonna make it completely different if it was taking place at 3 in the morning than if it's taking place at 2 in the afternoon. You get to use that and pay attention to those little details to make your monologue even better. All right, now we're up to where. Where are we? This can have to do with where the play is set, as in what country is it in? Maybe it's in space. Maybe it's in a country that you're not from. Maybe it's in a country that you are from. What room are you in? If you're in your best friend's room, if we're going with our best friend theme, what does their room look like? Have you been to their room before? Is this the first time you're there, or do you hang out there all the time and play board games? All of these little details about where you are. Maybe you're in public. Are you in public? So then you don't want to get too loud because people might hear you. Think about those little things and notice them because they're actor candy too. Now we come to the why. The why and the what go a little hand in hand, but the why is a little bit different. Why is this monologue happening right now in this moment? Why is it necessary for your character to say these words right now? Why is this moment different than any other moment in their life? What happened that has made it so imperative for this monologue to occur? A term that we use when we're talking about the why is the word stakes. It means that we are paying close attention to what is to be gained and what is to be lost. That means that this moment is important because it will gain you something if you achieve your objective, and it will lose you something if you don't achieve your objective. This can manifest in many different ways, but it's always connected to your objective. In general, we always want to raise the stakes as much as possible. A lot of times monologues will take place at very high stakes moments in a play. It's an emotional apex or an emotional valley. There's some kind of something going on that calls for these words to be said, so you get to find what it is. One of the most important things for figuring out your why is going to be something called the moment before. The moment before is exactly what it sounds like. It's whatever came just before your monologue. If it's not in the text, then you get to decide what it is. It's whatever the inciting incident was right before you start to speak that is the reason that you start to speak. Maybe your friend is having a terrible day and they ask you for advice, and this monologue is your advice. There it is. That is your reason to speak in this moment. There you go. That's your why. Now that you've done all of that wonderful work with the play, and you've found your who, your what, your when, your where, and your why in terms of the play, you get to play with your monologue like you're in the play. And you get to be in persona that character and see how it feels. Then, after you've done that for a little bit, you then get to make it a little bit your own. What I mean by that is when you're using a monologue in an audition, you're showing off you, right? So you want to make sure that it's showing you not only in the best light, but it's showing your personality and a little bit more of you as a person. So now you get to manipulate the given circumstances for your use. What I mean by that is now you get to revisit your who, your what, your when, your where, and your why, and see if there's anything you might want to shift around to make it a little bit more effective for the audience or to make it feel a little bit more like you. Maybe in the play, you are speaking to a group of people and that doesn't quite feel like you. So maybe you change it so that you're talking to your sibling. So it's something that you can identify with. Maybe it leads to a little bit more cheekiness and a little bit more sassiness because you're talking to somebody that you know and who annoys you every day. That's a choice that you can make, but you want to make sure it is a deliberate choice. If it doesn't match the monologue at all, or if it completely undermines all of the work that you've done, then it might not be the right choice. Don't just pick something outlandish just because. But follow your instincts, and if something feels right, try it on. See what happens. I have a monologue that I use in auditions that I did just this with. So the given circumstances of the play is that the character is around my age, and she is incredibly frustrated because of something that her next door neighbor did. And in the play, she is coming into the backyard and telling two other neighbors and her husband about the situation. And she's incredibly heated, and it just happened, and she ran right to the backyard and she's telling them about it. But I decided to manipulate those circumstances a little bit for my use in auditions. So I changed up the who. I decided that I am instead talking to one of my best friends. I'm telling them about this crazy thing that happened the other day. There, I've changed the when. I decided that instead of it just happening a few seconds ago, it instead happened a week ago. The where has also changed. I decided that I'm not doing it in the backyard talking to these people, but I'm instead in my friend's house. We are hanging out and I am telling them about this. I'm sitting on a couch. I'm comfortable. Very different circumstances that are going to make the monologue very different. Because I changed my who and my when and my where, my what and my why changed a little bit too. It made it a little bit more unique. Not quite as integrated into the world of the play, but a little bit more my own creation. And it's very fun to go into an audition room with a monologue that you're doing in a little bit of a different way. Sometimes it can spur really interesting conversations with the people behind the table. People who are like, oh, I love that play and I love that scene. I love what you did with that. That was so different and so fun. But at the end of the day, because you've done all of this wonderful work and you know exactly what was intended in the script and the choices that you've made to change it up a little bit, you can have these conversations about the play and about why you made the choices that you did. You have an ownership of the piece, not just in knowing everything about it, but also making it your own. That is going to set you yards and yards ahead. And it is going to make you feel so on top of your game, feel so much ownership of your piece, and have so much more fun. Now, notice, at this point in our class, we haven't talked at all about things like how to sound, how to say things, what volume to speak at. We haven't talked about things in terms of just making this alteration to your performance. Everything has been rooted in the truth of what's going on with the character. It's all about the acting. Everything else will follow, I promise you. Now that you've analyzed your character and you've analyzed your given circumstances within the piece, now you get to analyze the monologue itself, the actual words that you're saying. You guessed it, we are back to objectives. We talked about how individual objectives are all in service of your character's super objective. Now we're going to talk about tactics or actions being in service of your objective. So within your objective, In order to achieve that objective, your character is going to use different tactics, sometimes called actions, to try and achieve it. If your objective is to get the cookie from your sibling, there are a few ways that you can go about it. Just go and take it by force. Maybe try to convince them that you deserve the cookie. Maybe sneak over and try to take it without them looking and be very sneaky about it. Try to split the cookie with them. Maybe try to compromise. Those are all different tactics to achieve the objective of getting the cookie. So we've talked about how your objective always has to do with the other person, and it needs to be about what you want the other person to do. Maybe your objective is to get your scene partner to tell you thank you. Maybe they didn't tell you thank you for something, and by the end of the monologue, you want them to say the words, thank you. Now, how can you go about it? Let's think about the cookie. How can I go about getting that thank you? You want to make them feel bad for not having said thank you first. Maybe you want to scare them into saying thank you. Maybe you want to frighten them so then they never forget to say thank you again. Maybe you want to butter them up. Maybe you want to, make them feel a little good and like you're the best. You're so nice. Why wouldn't they say thank you? Maybe you want to reason with them. Maybe you just want to lay your cards on the table and say, look, this is what happened and I deserve a thank you, and those are the facts. So that's just what I expect. You can see that all of those individual tactics weren't me putting anything on. I wasn't being happy or being sad or being angry. I was trying to do something. I was trying to pursue my objective through a very specific tactic. That is going to make such a difference to the people watching your monologue. It is so much more organic. It's so much more natural. And for you, it feels more like you're going on a journey. It's so much more real and more wonderful for everybody involved. So you get to pay attention from line to line. When does the tactic shift? Are they starting doing this and then they realize that doesn't work? So then they try this and then that doesn't work. And then they try this and then that's working. So maybe I'll try it again. This is the kind of fun psychology work that you get to do. And it helps us with that point A to point B. We see where we're starting. We have an objective at point A. And each tactic is a way to get us to point B, which is hopefully either achieving your objective, hopefully for the character, or not achieving your objective. Both are incredibly interesting. They're just very different. So you get to make those kinds of decisions. You get to decide, does your character succeed or do they not? Sometimes it's in the text, but sometimes it isn't. Or even if it's in the text, maybe the opposite happens. I love analyzing monologues so much, and I will do it forever. I will analyze the same monologue over and over and over, and I'll always find something different, or I'll find a new way of doing it, or I'll get used to doing it a certain way, and then I'll decide to change it up just by changing a tactic or changing an objective, and it's so much fun. This is the fun part of being an actor. It's all of this. Now I'm going to give you a few other tricks to incorporate into your monologues. The first thing is my favorite, humor. It's always, always there. Even in a dramatic monologue. You know what it feels like when you're in a completely dramatic moment. Sometimes it's almost funny. I can't believe that this is happening to me. This is ridiculous. Find the moments of humor. They're often where you don't think they are. That leads us to opposites. Sometimes you might read a line and you'll think, oh, this is totally how to say that line. But what if you said it the complete opposite way? I bet you it might work. Or if not, at least you'll know, and it'll be super fun to find out. Those are things that you get to play with. Another thing to think about is discoveries. When is your character discovering something in this moment, on the stage, in this monologue? Maybe your line is just, I like cake. I like chocolate cake. What if you were discovering that you like chocolate cake the most? Maybe it would look like, I like cake. I like chocolate cake. These are little things that are going to make for so many wonderful peaks and valleys in your monologue. And again, it might be something that you don't expect. See what you find. Next trick is mystery or secret. Does your character have a secret that they're keeping from the other character? Is there something that they maybe don't want to express? Something that they want to say, but then they decide not to? These are all things that are so riveting to watch as an audience member. If you find clues like that in your monologue, grab them, take advantage of them. And our last trick we've already touched on a little bit, an active scene partner. This can be so much fun. We've talked about how we have to know what's going on with your scene partner, what their objective is, how it's opposing to yours. But now you get to decide what they're doing in the scene. Does your scene partner walk away from you at some point? And then your tactic becomes, no, I'm gonna get you back here. This is my tactic right now. Or do they talk back? And then your tactic is to overshadow them. It is to squash them with the volume of your voice. No, I'm talking now. Stop, no. Maybe they laugh. Is it a good thing? You're telling them something funny and they laugh with you and you're like, yeah, am I right? Or are you telling them something very serious and they laugh and you're like, there's so much variety available. And that's all stuff that you get to decide. You get to create that. You get to create the staging of your scene and what is happening with your scene partner. Oh, it's so much fun. You're gonna have a blast. You're not gonna have to manipulate anything vocally either. It's all just gonna come from your character. For instance, a lot of times you hear people saying, I'm gonna yell on this line because it's a very important line or because I'm feeling a lot of things. Well, sure, but that might not be the most effective choice. It might actually scare the people behind the table. Instead, think about what the character is thinking and what they're going through, what their objective is. When they're pursuing their objective, yelling might not be the best choice. It might scare them away. It might not get you your objective. Every choice that you make needs to be something in pursuit of your objective and in response to the person who is your scene partner. And now that you've done all of this hard work, you get to play. You get to take this monologue and run with it. You get to have full ownership of not only what the character was written as and how it was intended, but how you decide to put it on, how you decide to portray it. And you can have these wonderful conversations about this character, about this play. You'll know everything there is to know about your monologue. And it's going to be amazing. I hope you found a lot of these tips and tricks super helpful. I'm a big old nerd and I just love doing all this meaty, nitty-gritty acting work, and I hope this gets you excited about it too. If you're perhaps older and wanting to dive a little bit into some theater theory and some of what we've talked about today, the book Audition by Michael Shurtleff is one of my favorite resources. It might be a really fun quarantine read if you're wanting to nerd out a little bit about breaking down monologues. I hope you have so much fun owning your monologues with some of these tips and tricks. I hope you have the best time breaking everything down. Nerding out to monologues is the most fun in the world. I am going to be coaching for the rest of the summer for SCT Junior, so I hope I see you in a coaching session. And until then, happy analyzing!